Okay, you're live.
Okay, good morning. We'll call this meeting of the City of Philomath Public Works Committee to order. And let's see, we just lost our roll call person, so I'll do at least a bit of
introduce ourselves.
Okay, so my name is Chris Salza. I'm the chairperson of the committee, and we also have Mayor Christopher McBorn present. And then this is Gianna, yeah? Okay, thank you for being here. We have Kevin and we have Gary. Are we expecting anybody else to be on the line?
Graham's gonna be on site.
Well, I know that Brent said he can't make it this morning. Yeah, so. Okay, then that's who we have, and we'll move forward. The other thing I have basically in the consent agenda is the minutes from the 18th of March. And if there's any comment, corrections, otherwise we'll just, since we're not kind of this formal thing, maybe we just accept it, or do we have to take an actual vote on these things in committee?
You usually do, but
Okay, well then I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
That'd be you. That'd be you too.
Sure, I'll do that too, because I'm the official thing, so.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on then to, let's see, we're gonna do the tree board first.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So, please.
I will talk about that more. Sorry about that. We had a successful Arbor Day event in April. Had 125 participants. Gave out 100 and some trees, little seedlings. One thing we would like to talk about at this Arbor Day meeting here, or our tree board meeting, is we have been planting trees for years after our event. We need to come up with an idea of how we want to disperse those. Those trees are now some are getting quite substantial, 6+ feet or so. We'd like to get
They're
those.
fruitful and.
What's that?
They're fruitful and.
They're bountiful and they look beautiful. I'd like to, if we could come up with an idea, a plan, how to get them out to the citizens of Philomath, that would be great. I'm afraid if they sit in our public works yard, we got them in a little secured area, but they really need to be in the ground. Otherwise they're gonna get root bound and stuff like that, so.
Is that something that we could do at the farmer's market? To sort of.
If that's an idea, that's fine by me.
You know what I mean? I mean, that would be.
It's true.
As a public event, that would be a great opportunity, I would think.
I guess the only thing I would ask, Rich, is we make sure they are Philomath residents.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure we could probably get outside.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But we could do that, for example, the next time that the city council has their booth, we could just put it right there, and that would kind of limit the, number one, you'd have somebody looking after the trees and they just don't go walking off by themselves.
Yeah, I think we had talked about last year, and then this is partly on me just because everything got kind of crazy and we didn't like follow through on the promotion part.
Yeah.
Was just trying to pick a couple neighborhoods in town that are lacking in tree cover.
Uh-huh.
And then sending like a little postcard out or something to the residents in those areas, just saying that they could come pick up a tree from Public Works, like on a certain date or a certain, week or something. Okay. And then if they just come and postcard or whatever, then they get a tree and maybe like a, sheet of instructions about where to best plant the tree and if it needs to be, watered or whatever. So that was the idea we had, I think, last year, and then it just, I think, like, staff didn't feel like they had the capacity to kind of do the postcard piece right then.
Right.
And then I ended up not having it either, but I think if we get started a little earlier this time, like now, I
Yeah.
think we can definitely try to get it out. I guess the questions would just be how many trees are we trying to give away this year?
I looked at it earlier today. I bet there's 25 to 30 of them ready to go.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, and we could, just say first come, first serve too, because I'm sure not everyone who gets a postcard will want a tree, so we send out, 50, 75 some postcards.
and the thing is, though, we can kind of do a combination, because I'll tell you, one of the things about getting the trees is that obviously it'd be during the day, which a lot of people are at work and blah, blah,
Right,
blah,
right,
but if we
sure.
have it at like the farmer's
Right,
market,
no, totally,
same
yeah.
idea, bring
Yeah.
your postcard
Yeah,
with you.
that's true, yeah,
So we can kind of do it both,
yeah.
right?
I can work with Shannon. We can come up with some kind of postcard.
Okay.
Yeah,
See if we can get some.
and then we pick the weekend where the city council has their booth, we just
Yeah, we could do that and just somehow,
load up the trees behind
Yeah.
it, because we're right near the library anyway, and then
Yeah.
people can buy and pick up their tree.
set a designated tree pickup day at farmer's market, or a couple days. and
Or two,
we're there,
two,
yeah.
like 2 weekends where we're there.
One thing they did, oh, sorry, Jim, what you said?
Okay.
One thing they did, I did talk to a local resident, lives on Timothy, and he had reservations. He wants a tree,
Yeah,
but he has reservations of, he's not a tree guy,
sure.
doesn't know how to plant it, doesn't know how to take care of it. So I was talking to Kevin yesterday, it'd be nice if we could find a local tree person that might be able to give some instruction, or maybe even help that person that's a little
Yeah.
shy about planting.
That was exactly
Brandon
what I
just
was.
signed
Oh,
on, so he might
speaking
be
of.
able to.
I mean, seems pretty simple. You just dig a hole and throw a tree in it and you walk away. But there's actually stuff to do,
Yeah, no, totally, yeah. Graham, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hello, I am here and I can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect. I don't know when you signed on. What did you hear from all that?
I heard Gary say something about putting a tree in the ground in the last 10 seconds.
We were just talking about the kind of tree canopy program idea, and that Public Works is kind of itching to get that going because they have about like 25 or 30 trees that they've
Yeah.
been growing the past couple of years that they're ready to get off their lot. So we were just talking about kind of how we want to go about that. And Rich and I were talking about maybe doing kind of a hybrid idea of still sending out postcards to certain, areas of town that are lacking in tree cover. And then to get your tree, the city council is going to be out at the farmer's market like every other week over the summer. So
Oh,
picking
yeah.
a couple of those dates where then we could load up a truck of trees and just have it by the city council booth, and then folks can come by with their postcard and get their tree.
Oh, that's a
And
great
then-
idea. I love that.
Well, look at that.
And we can have the person in
Right.
person
Yeah,
also be there,
right.
to give them sort of tips and tricks about
So that was
too.
that was what we were talking about right as you chimed in, was just, I had mentioned maybe giving like a sort of a sheet of like, instructions or tips and tricks on tree care,
Planting a tree
planting.
and nurturing your tree in the
Yeah.
beginning, and
Yeah.
And then the other idea that had come up was like even having, our tree board members or other people who know about trees join us at the booth, just because
Yeah.
Gary was talking about, that he's talked to a resident who would be really interested in having a tree, but like doesn't trust his ability to keep it alive and do well. Whereas if there was someone there who, could walk him through it and kind of talk about
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You want shade, you don't want shade, you want to put it in, a low area or a high, that kind of thing, then it would give people more confidence. Oh, great, yeah, okay, I can do this. So
Yeah, that's such a great idea. I think I would love to be a part of something like that, first of all.
okay.
If we could find it, and I love the idea of doing it as a part of the market, because it just like adds publicity and awareness to tree planting in general, because there's a lot of people there who are not in those target neighborhoods, but they also are seeing what the city's doing to help,
Yeah,
exactly.
generate more tree canopy. And it just creates more interest in something like that, having it be such a visible community event.
yeah.
I was going to suggest, I think, like Gary was saying, I think there are a lot of people who are like, it'd be nice to have a tree. I don't, either they're physically not able to dig in, plant it, or they're like not sure. Or even regardless, even for the people who are like, I'll do this myself. I would be really happy to volunteer to go to people's homes and be like, I'll plant this for you.
Sure.
And to follow up and to be like, just to keep an eye and be like, hey, looks like it needs water, looks like whatever. I mean, I think we don't want this to be like handing out seedlings to a bunch of second graders. We want a super high rate of success with this. And I think there are enough people who would be willing, not just on a volunteer basis, to kind of babysit the project and make sure. And again, if we were only talking like 25, I have no idea how much interest we'll get.
I know, yeah.
Like if we send out 500 postcards, I have no idea how many people actually want them.
That'll be the question. That'll be the kind of trial.
Exactly. And in a worst case scenario, we run out of trees and we're like, well, next year we may have more seedlings. That would be great.
Yeah.
Too much interest.
Right.
But I mean, if we're only talking about 25 trees, I would be super happy to do whatever it takes to make this like maximally successful and to like really make people feel like, do this yourself or we'll do it with you. If you need us to do it entirely, we'll do that too, but offer a lot of support around it.
Take a quick pause. I just want to grab Chelsea and hold volunteers go trees in people's yards thing faster, because we do have a more formal volunteer liability thing now, but.
Right.
Yeah.
God, he has to duck.
It's crazy.
I couldn't quite hear that last part. Can you say that again?
Oh, I was pointing out.
About the volunteers.
Oh. He's looking at getting, what volunteer forms we would have to have for liability and issues if we wouldn't help plant trees.
So, yeah, we were just talking about the tree canopy project, and I think we're cooking up a good plan, but Gianna, well, it was brought up in general that a lot of folks might be interested in getting a tree, but either they can't or they don't feel comfortable like planting it themselves or, knowing how to take care of it. And obviously, Public Works doesn't have the capacity to like go plant a bunch of trees in private yards. Gianna saying like she and maybe other folks would be to like, if there is someone who's not able to plant a tree or has questions to, go visit them and help them out with that. And even, follow up and, see how it's doing. Is that something that we could do through the new volunteer program?
Yes. I think the most important thing that we're trying to rein in right now is that our insurers want to have someone who's in charge. So you'd be working with Gary, but we need a person, like if that was you, saying, I'm going to kind of oversee, what's going on with the volunteers when they're doing it, and that we kind of need a champion of each volunteer program, like for the flower baskets, Tom Wright, Lions Club is that person. So he's kind of
Key person.
overseeing a little bit, and most is doing the communicating with Gary, but everyone who's interested in it needs to fill out an application. We have it online. And then we do like a few checks, depending on whether you're using city vehicles or not.
You mean the key person or every person?
Every person. Yeah, and we do have coverage for volunteers. So if they are doing something for the city, in the city right of way, we would want to do that. If they're doing it on their own, they're on their own.
Right.
So you would kind of want to formalize that is, Public Works would want to formalize that is that we acknowledge that as sort of a volunteer effort, is going to be those folks that are doing that.
So where does that put it? It'll be going to private citizens to put on their own property, and Gianna was gonna help them on their property,
If
not
it's-
in the right of way.
Yeah, I think that is probably just going to be more like you're just volunteering to help someone.
Okay.
So if they're,
So like, even if we are the ones because so basically the idea that we came to is we still want to send out some postcards to folks about like, hey, come come get a tree, and then kind of doing it a hybrid with the city council booth at the farmers market. So pick a couple weeks where then like we'll just load up a truck of trees and bring it to the city council booth at the farmers market. and then folks can bring their postcard and get a tree. So then even if like we are at that booth, or like, you know, Gianna's there, Graham's there, and we're like, oh, and then you can follow up with Gianna or Graham and they can come help you or something. So even if it's like in the city kind of making the connection with that.
I think the issue is that generally, like for city volunteers, it's
On
things that
city
are on city property
sure,
for the most
okay,
part.
okay.
I mean, I think the council's a little different because you have coverage, but you have
Sure.
a separate coverage that kind of is
Okay.
saying you're going into other buildings and
Yeah,
facilities to
yeah,
do some of
yeah.
your duties. Why don't I just look at it
Okay.
and talk to our insurers? It's brand new. We just got it.
Yeah.
So why don't I just do that, and then I'll give
Okay.
feedback to Kevin and he can come back. And I know you have kind of a short turnaround, but let's just figure out if we can go down that path and do that or not. I
That
will
would
ask
be the
him.
other point on turnaround. It's with Graham on now.
Mhm.
Should we be giving trees away at this time of year? I mean, we're looking at 90 degrees this weekend.
It is. Yeah, it is a bad time to plant trees, or a hard time to plant trees. It just the need for really consistent watering is a lot higher, so you're more likely
Yeah.
to lose some of those trees. So it would be better if we just waited until it starts raining again and then did that, or like closer to that period rather than at the beginning of summer. So
How late does the farmer's market?
They go into October. I don't know if they go all the way through, but they definitely go into October.
No, yeah,
It'll take 3 months to get these things off the ground
I was gonna
anyways.
say, I think this is kind of perfect timing, because
Exactly. And by early fall.
yeah, we try to
yeah.
get the postcards out in September, have the trees available in October, you know, follow up with people
Yeah.
in November. I feel like that's a kind of a good timeline.
Shannon and I work on the postcard.
Okay.
I do know some key areas, you know, our newer subdivisions,
Yeah.
they just get one tree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd want more trees in my yard.
Sure.
So maybe it's 16, 15.
Okay.
Probably Newton Creek Estates, when it got put in, maybe
Sure.
30 trees out there, so.
Okay.
I think if we're gonna do, we wanna hit the market or hit the area where we need tree canopy.
Yeah.
And I definitely think those are areas that are high on the
Okay.
tree canopy list.
Okay.
And I think if the postcards could actually mention like something about that support is available to
Sure. Yeah. Volunteers are
free support or whatever for getting it in there, so people don't
Right. Get scared off.
exactly
Yeah.
know from the get-go that they can.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I do need to take off in just a couple minutes here, but I would be willing to donate like a day of me and my crew's time to like do like a planting day at some point.
Wow.
So, you know, if that, like, it would be nice to organize that into a single
Yes.
day where we can just run around and put trees in the ground. But that is something that I could totally, I would
Okay.
like to be a part of the giving trees away and like advising people about planting requirements and all that kind of stuff at the market. I think I could be a good resource for that. But then also once it's time to actually put trees in the ground, if there's people that do need help with that, I would be up for either like organizing that day or just being the put the trees in the ground team and someone else organize that if someone needs help with it.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you.
Great.
Would you see something along the line of, 'cause my thinking is hauling 25 trees down to City Hall from Public Works and then loading them up, and what doesn't get given away, you know, we bring them back. Would we be better off putting a list of the trees that we have out and then having people say, yeah, I'd like to have this type of tree, and then on Monday or a day that you are donating your time, have come by come by Public Works, pick the trees up, and we have names on them and addresses, and just drop them off and help plant, or
How big of trees are these?
I think having at least a few trees at the market would be enticing.
We got them all the way from,
they're 3-gallon buckets.
3 feet tall to 6.5, 7 feet tall.
Wow.
Some of them are getting pretty
Okay, so
tall.
they're not huge trees. It would be a little bit of a chore to load them up into a vehicle, but
People would
not.
want to do it on their own, they just pick up the tree and be done, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, ideally, most people come pick up their tree at the market and then go plant it in the next couple days on their own, and there's some smaller group of people who are not confident or physically capable of doing the planting that are going to need help, and that's going to be hopefully,
Yep.
you know, just a handful of people.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we could have people call or whatever, email or do whatever
We can have
first, and then,
There for,
exactly, so you don't have to bring all the trees to the market and be like, pick one. If people choose their tree in advance or whatever, and then be like, you can pick it up at the market, we'd only have to bring the ones to the market that people specifically had already possibly had already
Yeah.
planned to pick up then.
I think it would be good to have some.
But definitely have a few examples right there to
Yeah.
bring people.
People, getting them to actually like
Come
follow
back.
up and
I think
contact
that's
the
gonna be
city.
I think that's gonna be your,
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I think you're most likely to have a tree giveaway where you have trees, even if it is a little bit of a chore, but we could also maybe just look at logistics where we have them say on the side of our building, or, you know, that we could look at having them here so that you're not having to haul them back and
Yeah.
forth. Maybe they're right inside, maybe we can talk the police into letting us have a little, you know, like having them inside the gate so they're safe and you don't have to move them right away and move them for the market, but they're here. Maybe something like that. So I think we could try to do something that's not gonna be a bunch of work for you, but
stick around very long.
I don't think so either. When you bring them, people can see them, they're probably gonna take them.
What if we just did the timing of those events close together so that on a Sunday,
Yeah.
we bring the trees to the market, people take them home if they can. If they can't take them home, then, you know, I can load them in the
Days
truck and we
following.
just drop them off at their house and then we plant
Yeah.
them Monday, Tuesday, or, you know, something like that. So they're not sitting
Yeah.
there for that long.
Yep.
We're not
And I think-
handling the trees over and over again.
And even for the people that take them at the market, I mean, I think we should take down people's addresses, just also to make sure they live in Philomath. And then we could even note, like, maybe they are taking it on Sunday, but they still want you to drop by, you know, on Tuesday and just kind of, you know, just if they have questions, we can just note that. Okay. Okay. Well, this seems like we.
Good. Time to get the logistics worked out.
Yeah.
We want to shoot for September-ish.
Yeah, sure.
We don't want to do anything July and August.
I think so. Just we want
Yeah, I
to.
think so too.
End of September, October.
But could we maybe have the tree board meet again, like in like August, or it's just something just kind of check in?
Yeah, and I can get back information about it.
coordination.
I will work with Shannon, we'll get a postcard out.
Awesome.
I'll make sure we all look at it before we send it out.
Okay. Anything else under tree board business that needs to be discussed?
Graham, have you seen the Cottonwood path?
I have not been over there.
Go over there.
I will. I
Okay.
will. All right. Hey, you guys have a great day. I got a jet.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, that being said, let's move on to public works.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your accommodating.
Being here. It's been a couple months.
Okay, Kev, it
It's
says
Our
State Route
mayor.
School Projects TSP.
I can sort of give the overview.
I
No, yeah.
interject. I think you asked to have a meeting to go over the stuff, and
Yeah.
we didn't get a chance really to talk about what all was going on. So
Yeah.
turn it over to you.
No, thank you. So I think the reason I wanted to talk about this was in conjunction with the strategic plan and the budget, we moved $100,000 into the upcoming budget for like sort of pedestrian bike transportation system plan upgrades. And we put that as one of our strategic plan priorities for the year. So I just kind of wanted to go through this with everyone and start trying to kind of pick out a couple projects or a project or something that would equal around 100,000 that would be feasible to get started on in the next fiscal year, or the upcoming fiscal year, I guess, to then, I guess, maybe recommend back to the council. Or just
Here for the projects, I believe,
because I think, I don't know, like, because we just approved, in the capital improvement plan, we just approved like TSP projects.
yes, safe routes to school.
Right. So I just wanted to kind of, then I guess, have us pick out of the million things in here, like, which ones we want to prioritize on that.
I think, well, we
list.
also have the 17th Street crossing.
Right. And I
That
think,
is on its own.
yeah, that's a separate line item, right?
And we could, I had a scramble this morning and ran out without my budget.
I know, and mine's at my house. I should have brought it. I'm sure someone should I go try to find one? I'm sure like Crystal has one on her desk.
Crystal's gone.
Just steal it, right? Oh, let me go see if Chelsea's here. Poor Chelsea can't get a moment's peace.
Do you want to, while he's doing that, do you want to touch on your other topic of the emergency call number?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I did have that, thanks for that. So, one, and I think you kind of answered this anyway, and that was just this, again, this was a citizen that came up to the booth at the farmer's market and said, hey, there was a situation where something was happening at the park and I couldn't find anybody to call. And when I called the other sort of number, they didn't have a very pleasant experience with people on the other end of the line on actually being helpful. Do you know what I mean? So it was just sort of suggested, and I think it's a good suggestion. It's like, if there's, because I know you guys have like a duty phone or an out of hours phone or something. Something happens at one of the city parks and it's after hours, that say, hey, if something's going on here, call this number. Just something that's somewhat visible, posted on, kind of a wall somewhere or.
And generally, most everybody has called, if they just call the Public Works number,
Yeah,
like they're expecting to get hold of somebody, it automatically says that this is an emergency, not a life-threatening emergency, but if there's a issue or something that needs immediate assistance, like a leak or something, dial 1 and it transfers you to the on-call person.
oh, gotcha,
But
okay,
we did go in and clarify that. We had Shannon clarify it on a couple of the different pages of parks and
yeah,
Public Works, that if you need assistance after hours or on a weekend, dial this number.
that number,
And it'll give you the
Yeah.
extension number 1, and you're on your
away
way.
you go. Yeah, no, I think that would be the simplest, because, people are out there, it's like, I don't even know what number to,
And that was the thing too, with the new phone system we got, we're able to do that now, just have one phone number, so there's not a bunch of phone numbers that you have to sort through to try to figure out, well, do I need to call parks? And a lot of cities have a parks department.
No, that is the Parks Department. Yeah, exactly.
So we did clarify that a little bit more and say, here's the number to call.
Yeah.
Public Works and Parks are together, it's
Okay.
all one, so.
Well, good.
Okay.
I will leave you to sort out how best to manage that, but thank you for that. The other one, I wasn't quite sure, but now since we're kind of talking about transportation system plans and $100,000 that you want to spend.
Yes.
The other thing that was brought up, again, this is from a citizen, and I say with all the walking I'm doing, I've seen my own sort of experience of this, the little catch basin that's right outside of the Timbertown place, or not Timbertown, Dirt Road. It's just enough of a drop off there that people have kind of piled out of Dirt Road down the steps, and I've seen them take a header right off the edge. So now, mind you, I don't know how much they've had to sort of assume.
It is an
and the
unfortunate
establishment
combination
behind-
there.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but it was enough, because this particular individual was one of our elderly citizens. And it's like, I come kind of wobbling by there, and it's people, it gets kind of crowded. I think it's gonna be kind of a public square, I think, is kind of the idea, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, just to have some sort of, like over where the bank is, because it gets that little drop off of 13th down towards Citizens Bank, and there's a nice little rail there to keep people from tumbling off. So I don't know if is that a city thing, or is that you have to get permission from ODOT, or.
Gary and I weren't really involved with the streetscape stuff.
Yeah.
It was all ODOT, or phrase that, ODOT was in control of it.
Right.
We kind
Right.
of helped with the plans.
Right.
But since it was at that magnitude, it was kind of Chris and Chelsea that were taking care of it. And I had heard concerns about those bioswales and the drop off in some of those places, and maybe putting a rail on there. And I honestly, did you hear anything? I had just heard that a rail would be nice, and I don't know where it went from there. I don't know if it came up and ODOT said, no, absolutely not, you can't put one up that close to the highway. I don't know why they would.
I think the conversation I heard one time is once those plants established get big enough, it's not gonna block people from falling in, but it's gonna make it less likely. Because they're gonna
Cushion their fall.
Get a cushion to fall. I didn't know if I agreed with that conversation,
Like,
but it's supposed to fill that in and not be as like, oh, there's a big huge drop off.
Sure, or at least it's supposed to not look like a big.
It's not supposed to look like a big drop off. It's look like the rest of, I didn't know if I agreed with that conversation, but I was like, well, that's what ODOT thinks, that's
Yeah,
what
I
I think.
can see the stuff growing up and somebody looking at it and going to step off in.
I know, I had,
Think,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's, there's plants up here, it can't be that deep.
Those are getting pretty, the plants are getting pretty good size.
They are.
Starting to fill up those. I think that was the reason why they went away from not putting in a guardrail. That's what I heard.
yeah, I got it. And I know that, like I said, that particular place there's a hydrant that's there also. So you have to be careful of keeping the spacing around the hydrant and blah, 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 blah. Okay, I didn't know where to go with this. I mean, I don't know if it's now in the city's sort of responsibility to now manage that part, or,
We have a few months or a year,
I think it's coming up though.
is it? That's another one we weren't in on
it was.
the conversations.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's it's like the grass, we found out that it's not the 1 year warranty, it was 45 days, but the other stuff is, some of it's a year, some's 2 years.
Oh, in terms of the landscaping thing.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure, I've heard we're taking the bioswales over at probably end of.
Let's find out this week. I'm not gonna assume anything anymore, so
Yeah,
I'm not taking that beating on Facebook again.
Okay, so should this then be directed more towards Chris to sort of go?
I would think so.
yeah.
Okay, all right, that's mostly the purpose of this, is like where
No, it's a good question.
would be the appropriate place to hand, because it's so many sort of things involved.
I guess my question would be, do we put it on, because some of those, we've already had somebody drive into one.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right.
He got up and he was moving out of the way for the fire engine.
Well, this
And
one guy,
drove into literally over the curb and into the bioswale. It's like,
so they've already,
Because-
so do we put a railing on that side or do we put it on the sidewalk side?
right, exactly.
So then you gotta figure out where's his best spot for it. Or does it need railing all the way around it?
Yeah, because there's the cut that's coming right off of the curb that then dumps the water from the bottom of the curb down into the bioswale, which of course, right, but that's exactly where the tire went, and he went boom, and then he was high centered, sitting over the top, and they had to get a tow truck to yank him out of there, so. Why he was thinking he was gonna have to four-wheel drive to get out of the way of the fire engine is beyond me, but.
Well, the one the police told me about, the guy was actually drinking, so. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't know if it's the same one or not, but.
There you have it,
They get ran through more than you would think.
yeah. All right, well, thanks for that, that's all I had for that, so now.
Well, yes, thank you. So I got this, I don't remember what our question was, but yeah, we have 100,000 in this upcoming budget for TSP projects. And then there is this North 17th. Oh, no, wait, this is a separate thing. Were you talking about the crossing, right? Yeah, that's up here. Main Street crossing as Gene. That's in the budget, but for 26, 27.
Okay, so not this coming
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Yeah,
But it's got its own line item.
it does.
to
Yeah, it's like a
be
separate.
Addressed, so
Yeah.
the other can be used for stuff out of the transportation system plan. and
Yeah.
Safe routes to school, which are
Right.
basically about the same thing.
Right.
Now,
I figured that one out, yeah. So that's what I just kind of wanted us to talk about was out of all these projects, kind of how can we pick a few, one or two or whatever, how many, depending on cost, that are feasible and fit in that $100,000 bucket.
Which is not a lot of,
No.
that hardly even surfaces a road anymore.
Right. But that's part of what I was trying to look at here was just kind of like, what are, like, sort of more like cost-effective things, just through like restriping or through those kind of things that can check off some of these boxes. And the one that I know I'm the most into, and I wanted to get your kind of feedback on it, was finishing, like putting bike lanes on Applegate or a bike lane on Applegate, I don't know, however we do it, like 16th and 21st, because that's on here on the, like the top priority, whatever, the financially constrained projects list.
I think the only reason that one hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Is because we need to, you're gonna lose parking.
Right, right,
I think as a council,
right,
the decision needs to be made is who's getting the short end of that stick.
right, right. Which side of the road, you mean?
Which side of the road?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
If you come back to me, say it's gonna be the south side,
Yeah, you can do it.
we get it done.
Okay, and do you think, because I think what was outlined in one of them was like doing sort of like the two-way on one side as opposed to the split. Do you have any preference or feedback on that?
The split.
Like, because like on Applegate, on the eastern side of town is like a bike lane on each side of the road. But then there's like the little two-way bike track here on this. Like,
I think Applegate would be a one-way or a two-way on one side of the street would be
Okay.
efficient.
okay, yeah.
Be a lot more, less disruptive than.
Yes.
Right,
You
okay.
do have a lot of people that park on the street. or,
Yeah,
you know,
so just
Right
pick
there.
one of the sides that has parking and we'll put in the two-way. Okay. I guess the question is, do you have any, because it says in here from 2017 that was estimated to cost 25,000. Do you increased?
Think.
Did I thought I did a spreadsheet and put it in the Public Works packet.
Oh, did I miss that?
I only got that.
Oh, this one here. Yeah.
And I thought I marked off everything that we have completed over
Yes.
the last few years that I
Yeah.
said that night. If I didn't update it on this one, I remember going through and of course that could have been for any number of projects that we've been working on too, but I thought I went through and updated it from the date and the pricing we had in here
Okay.
and tried to get it into closer to the 2025, $26. Because we've accomplished
yeah,
really
okay.
quite a bit.
So it looks like you put 109,000, I think, on that.
And that, depending on what we do, we usually have Benton County do our striping when they're out.
Right,
And they treat it
okay.
very well, so.
Okay.
The 109 was from the TSP and the Safe Routes to School
Sure,
plan.
okay,
So, and all I had time really to do to get stuff around was say, okay, it's this much here, it's increased this much, this is the price. So
okay,
109 is our budget
yeah.
kind of
okay,
number, but
Okay,
it could very well come in less.
okay, because that's pretty close to 100.
I know.
It's like, that's convenient. I didn't even
I
think
think
that.
the lane.
Yeah.
Is gonna be the most.
Sure, the green stuff, or that, like the green part?
Well, we're gonna do the green ones and see if we can get them more expensive.
Oh, okay, I just.
But just the white ones,
Okay,
those are expensive.
okay,
You can get them.
okay.
We have plans on getting some, I think, the.
I'm getting ready to order some.
Fix up.
Okay.
Stuff anyways.
Okay, I guess I'll just say the reason that I'm really drawn to that one is because mostly because of the kind of safe routes to school thing. Like we have really solid bike lanes on Applegate,
Either side.
all of Applegate except the parts right in front of the schools where there's a bunch of cars and kids on bikes and kids walking and everything. So like just completing so that you can go from basically one side of Applegate all the way to the other in a protected bike lane, especially in front of the schools, I think it seems like a priority, but.
I think the schools are gonna have some issues with.
Sure, we can talk with them, yeah.
They're gonna want it on the north side of that Applegate, but I don't think really that's the best spot. I think the south side is, because kids ride their bike,
I
they just wanna
know.
get right into their school, they don't wanna be on the north side,
Yeah,
have to cross.
yeah,
Yeah, the only thing that's gonna be there is the bus stop that's right in
Right.
front of the elementary school.
and the
right?
high school has one too there, I think.
Yes.
Oh, it does, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
So,
You're
But
not there
even
that
that's a-
long.
right, they could pull into the
That's
bike
what I,
lane. if
yeah,
they
that's
need
what
to.
I mean, it does it now already on them, but.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
They can,
Okay,
they can work around it,
okay, and are you thinking for that would that just be striping?
yes.
Okay, no, like little bollardy thing or whatever, I don't know what they're
Oh,
called.
if we go that route, we're
Yeah,
definitely.
All the protected.
What are those little, like the little white things we put up by Clemens?
Delineators.
Yeah, those, yes,
Yeah.
okay,
We
okay.
can fit those up. I
Well,
mean,
no, I was just curious kind of what the like standards are for,
currently it's just basically striping it.
okay,
You
okay,
gotta make sure it's a certain width,
yeah,
stripe it, mark it, and you're good.
okay, okay. Okay, I guess what do you think about that?
I think it covers two things.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
at once, you get a lot more bang for the buck that way.
yeah, okay,
And
I would need some, I would need some direction, if we wanted to do it this summer,
okay.
I would need some direction sooner
Very
than
soon,
later.
yes,
Because
okay,
I know, Benton
great.
County orders paint,
okay,
and if I'm gonna ask them to do, or pay them to do that, they're gonna need enough paint to make that happen.
okay.
And
Let
we got
me-
shower, or we got all the heat tape stuff that's been.
Do you know when they would need that answer by?
Typically, they paint for us in August.
Okay, okay.
When do they order paint though? July 1st, probably, maybe.
I gotta find out
Okay.
to, Chris Bailey.
Okay, okay. I mean, because it's not the end of the world if it needs to happen next summer, but
Still in this budget, or this
Yeah,
coming budget.
yeah.
But if we get it.
But if we
I
can,
mean,
yeah.
carpe diem, you know.
because I'm gonna,
They give us a, we're not gonna hire a contractor to give us a smoking deal like the Benton County does.
right, no, totally, yeah.
It's well worth it.
Okay, okay.
It's well worth it.
Because I'm the liaison with the school district too, so I'm planning to go to their meeting on Thursday, so I might just see if we can. Maybe I'll talk to Susan Halliday first.
Maybe you might want to bridge that up a little earlier.
Yeah. And just kind of see if they would like absolutely hate one way or another. But why do you think they would be opposed to the south side?
Just that from the 2:45 moms picking up their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only for twice a day for a
Right,
half hour, but it's
yeah,
pure pandemonium there.
right, okay.
On
Okay.
the other hand, from a safety perspective, I gotta say,
I
it
know.
just
Yeah.
things more calm, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where you're not, because I can see them, they're in there, they're jamming, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's,
I know.
I've walked past there, it's like,
Having
I
it be
swear,
a
it's like,
little
I'm not walking
separated.
past here anymore, there's just
Right.
too many, like,
I guess that we might want some, like just a couple of little delineators right in front of the schools. Like, not the whole stretch, but like, just.
cross this line, you die.
Yeah.
It does
Okay.
make more sense for it to be south side.
It
because
does, yeah.
Kids could come out, those that are riding their bikes, get in the bike lane and you can ride up 2 or 3 blocks, get out of the real heavy traffic.
Yeah.
Crowds and everything, and then cross at one of those crosswalks.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah,
get it
yeah, yeah.
over, so.
Well, plus you got the big, beautiful bike lane here on Applegate,
I know,
and it would feed right into that.
Well, because, and I remember, as a kid, riding my bike to school, and because my family lives like up sort of at the base of Neeback Hill, and I felt great riding in my little bike lane, and then I get to City Park basically, and then you just are dodging cars and stuff to the elementary school, and
Frog.
right, yeah,
I think we're partially striped on the south side on Applegate anyway, aren't we?
Past the park.
Just past the park.
yeah, I think it goes all the way to the high school
Yeah.
there.
It
We
goes,
we must have because we rebuilt that intersection.
Yeah, I
and
think-
everything.
I think it's like right to the high school, and then there's nothing from the high school until section 15.
It would make sense just to continue that on, really.
Right.
Instead of putting a crossing in.
Right.
And I think more
and
people,
the tricky part is gonna be just that corner as you can move.
yeah, it can be hard to.
People take that on 2 wheels, I swear.
And that will be a hard.
Yeah, and the only other, and this is above my pay grade, just I noted we put in a little curb bulb out as part of the 16th Street extension is on the south side. Would that be a problem then to try to get the bike lane around that, or no?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay, we just kind of stripe it up around it. Yeah.
We've done it downtown and.
Right.
Everywhere else, so.
Okay.
Might
And
make it
again,
better.
all of those things would calm the
Right,
stop
no,
sign
yeah.
anyway.
What you're using as far as calm, traffic calm.
Right, no, totally. Okay. Well, do we want to?
Yeah, we should,
I mean, I feel like this is the fact that it's
it's right
basically
there.
100,000 and is kind of a clear.
One thing we may need to look at is if we're putting a bike lane there,
Yeah.
that means that center line's gonna have to be moved over.
Right.
Gotta look on how we're gonna do that.
Okay.
That might have been why the cost is a little.
Sure.
To grind that.
You have grind down the
Remove
center
that
line.
center lane,
Okay.
even extra paint.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess does that work? If I try to talk to the school district a little bit, you'll figure out kind of what.
I'll work on some costs.
Okay. And then we can reconvene
Yeah.
whenever. I don't know.
Whenever is convenient, just to kind of
Yeah.
get the next place, because then we make a recommendation to the city council.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, I don't know if we need to, because I think the city council already approved
Well, yeah,
the
fair enough.
money.
Yeah, the money's there.
I think we should update them and just say.
Inform.
Yeah.
Inform. Hey,
I think the only thing you'd really, like I said, the parking things you might want.
Right.
For you guys.
And because I've been thinking of this a lot. So I've been doing a little informal survey, and there's plenty of, there's never a time where both side, you can easily fit all of the cars on one side or another. It will just mean some people will have to cross the street. Yeah. Which, yes, we may get some grumbles. But it's fair. I would be happy to go knock on some doors and talk to people.
I think most of the residents that live between 16th and 19th park on the north side of the road.
Yeah.
It seems like the south side doesn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was thinking, because that was my whole thing, oh God, anytime you take away people's parking, they get mad. But then I went and drove down there, on different days of the week, a couple days, and I was like, oh, what parking? There's like, 2 cars on this whole block.
When they are, it's usually short-term.
Right.
Fairly short-term, so.
Right.
Walking across the street shouldn't be too big.
Okay.
I'll work on getting some prices and some logistics of what it's gonna take to make that happen.
Okay.
I'll get all that for you guys.
Okay. Should we try to just meet again next month and go?
I think so,
Would that
yeah.
be?
If, once you kind of get through
Yeah,
that,
okay.
we'll gauge it on
Yeah, okay.
what your reception looks like first.
Yeah, right, yeah, if they blow it up, then.
Like the school district is gonna be the only.
Yeah.
It's the parking in front of
I
the
know.
school and that.
Totally, no, I know, I love the school district, but, yeah. Sometimes I feel like we come to them with ideas of like, we want to make things safer for your students, and they're like, no.
No.
You can't do that, we've only been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah.
Stay on your side of the lane.
Yeah,
It is on
It is our side of the lane.
our side of the lane.
okay. Anything else?
Not for that. Anything else? I have a heads up, since we're all sort of sitting here anyway, because the police committee meeting is next week. So some of the things that are on the topic for discussion is use of, as we've sort of pointed out, that it's funny. If you go down Main Street,
Yeah,
all the speed limit 25 miles an hour signs are all on the north side of the street. There are none on the south side of the street, none. So what people do is they see these when they're in this lane, but if there are cars and trucks and stuff like that stacked up over here, they don't see it in this lane and they are 40 miles an hour. That's part of the issue. There's literally no signage of saying this is 25 miles an hour here, folks. So a couple things about that, but I'm thinking that that's clearly an ODOT thing, because they provide the signage, like speed limits and stuff like that. Is that accurate? Okay.
Along Main Street.
Because we're actually gonna push to do something a little bit further, and that's to put 25 on the pavement.
That's good.
At strategic places, all the way along both Applegate
Yeah.
and Main Street, that it just said, it's 25. And I'll tell you the one place that's the most critical, there's 2 places actually. One is on Main Street as you approach 7th, they're at 40. They're already gearing up.
100%.
It's at 9th Street.
Blowing right
9th
through
Street,
that
they
nice
start.
little protected crosswalk thing at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times it's like, the thing is flashing back and forth and they're,
Yeah.
and because they can't, they're at speed already, right? So there's that. And then the same between 19th and when it turns to 35 miles an hour. Well, they're at 35 the moment that they cross 19th. They see that 35 mile an hour speed limit sign down there. It's like, I'm 35 miles an hour here, right? So, but that feeds into this.
Yeah.
Because that's right?
We must be driving at 2 different times, because they're usually 35, 40 at OSU Credit Union coming through the Esker. Just gonna go home.
And then the other one, which may then turn into this, depends, because I know that part of this is also Benton County. So North 9th, right? So you're going up the hill or you're coming down the hill, and that's a traditional sort of a tough spot. To also put on the pavement 25 on both sides, like this is 25 in here, folks, right?
That would be on us.
Something that just gives them, and then the other one is to actually put a table crosswalk across 9th at Pioneer, at the top, the northeast and west corner up there, to put
That's funny you mentioned, I was just watching the.
Raised. And I know that's gonna raise some eyebrows, because it's like, the streets of San Francisco, like this. But I'll tell you what, if you've driven on Circle, it's effective. It slows you down.
Yeah.
And we're just looking, because I've seen too many people just about get creamed.
Yeah.
Because there's no protected crosswalk there.
Yeah.
and people come flying over that hill,
Yeah.
and it's a disaster, so.
It's funny you mentioned, I was watching Dax
Yeah.
Oh,
at
yeah.
Ninth and Pioneer, and I come back and told Kevin, there's no crosswalk.
No, and yeah, then
There is
there's
no
no
crosswalk
cutout
right there.
there.
We just talked
either.
about that this week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like, and it went up there and went, I could see him like looking around.
I
like,
watched
what am I
Dax go,
gonna do? I can't get across the street. Anyway, just heads up. And again, I don't know if it's because that's a Benton County if that's a transportation route thing, or I don't know where all of that sort of falls, but it's street and it's in Philomath, so anyway.
I think at Ninth, on the north side of Ninth and Pioneer, one of the reasons is the sidewalk is way up on the top,
Yeah,
there by the corner house there.
Right, right.
And so we'd have to bring, maybe put a sidewalk at the base
right,
and run it all the way down. So I think that's probably the reason why it's never ever been done.
yeah.
It's just logistically and financially, how do we get that sidewalk to put a ramp in? Because right now that sidewalk's way at the top.
Oh, no, I know, you have to climb the stairs to get
Yeah,
up
and
on.
then we gotta figure out how we're going to do that.
Yeah, no, it would have to take some pretty.
That's a good idea, though.
And there's a telephone pole or a power pole or something
Yeah.
that's right there too, and I mean, that's all sorts of stuff happening there, so, okay.
Basically be moving the sidewalk down to the curb and putting a retaining wall or something.
Well, the people down on the 8th side of Pioneer, they moved the sidewalk down. So it is got some sidewalk down there, we just tie into it.
Okay, anything else, Rick?
Did you want to set a time for the next meeting with July 4th?
Oh, that's right.
The first part of what would be the July meeting? You want to set one on the record, or do you want to see what everybody's schedule is and who's around and when we could schedule it and just do that and then set it and advertise it then?
Yeah, because it would have been July 4th, right? Is that, yeah, okay. I mean, do we want to just do the next, like July 11th?
Sorry, say again?
For the next meeting, just like the following Friday,
No,
or
I'll be out,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
we could do the 18th?
I'll have to see what Councilor Caseman's.
Yeah, right, okay.
We can,
We can do the
something like
18th.
that, we can just do something off the email and figure out a date, and then, like we did this one, I mean, it moved by that way, so.
Okay. We can always do the 3rd or something like that too, if you want to keep it,
That's true,
you know what I mean? Just do
Yeah.
it on a Thursday instead of a Friday.
that works. Should we do that?
July
Does
3rd,
that, does that work for you
July 3rd.
guys?
I think, are you around?
My wife tells me I am. I don't think I have that date off.
Okay, does that give you enough time to try to get some of this figured out?
Yeah, it'll be a crunch, but I'll work on it.
I mean, because we can, if you need more time, we can kick it out a little
We can
bit.
figure it out.
I wouldn't mind kicking it out a little bit.
Okay. So what do we say, like that third week, like the 18th or 17th or something? Or, does that work?
Yeah.
Okay,
What date?
yeah, let's do the 18th, I guess.
18th?
Yeah,
For me.
okay.
10 a.m. still?
Yeah, okay. Good.
Cool. Anything else go to the order or otherwise?
I don't.
Make sure that I'm not missing something here. Okay, then at 11 o'clock, we'll
All right.
call it quits.
Okay, so I'll come back with some school district feedback.
You want to turn the recording off, Kevin?
Everything down here.
Yeah.